Let's get this party started. Oh my goodness, I did need that. I'm gonna put the word out and welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles to those of you that are watching. Got the word out on Twitter, gonna get this started. Chat should fill up in a little bit. Yeah, it's been a crazy day. It's Friday, the rain started pouring down. I've been filling out paperwork and stuff for the book, getting a proof copy of it soon, and hopefully soon I'll be able to make an announcement for physical copies for those of you who are looking for physical copies. I'm so blessed and honored that you guys downloaded it so much. The Draft to Digital was like, yeah, let's get these people printed. So once I get my hands on the proof and see what it's gonna look like, I can then go forward with, allowing them to put out some copies of this. So it's all just happening. And then on the heels of Lynn's homecoming, which, my friend, she showed the uh thing that they give at the funeral, and it just brings it all home why you got to keep going on. And hey, Marva, I'm hanging in there. It's been a up and down day. I've been dealing with mania stuff and trying to get some more writing done, and then dealing with the contract stuff for the book. And then you get on Twitter and you're reminded that your friend is not here, and it's just processing it all. It feels like everything comes at you at once, and I just I know why I'm still here. I hope that I can do Lynn justice. I'm hoping that we can win PA and do everything we need to do to make things better. But it just seeing her picture here, because I remember when she announced that she was going back to school, and how proud she was, because a lot of us went through that. We left home when we were 18, moved away, moved all over the place, and just trying to figure out what we were going to do with ourselves. And she always wanted to help people. So it was a proud moment when she got to graduate and having her baby there. And then the last picture I seen of her right before she passed was his graduation picture, because he's about to go to college soon. So it does really come full circle. And I know that she doesn't want us just being sad, but it still hurts. I'm gonna mourn her for forever, I think, because she really was a good soul, and it just hurts that she's not here right now. But I really wanted to talk with y'all today because so much went on. I know everybody was talking about Ivana Trump's death and that crumb bum husband of hers. Freaking, you know, you cheated on her with Marla. Then you cheated on Marla with Melania. And I'm shocked they're even getting these names right. But then you act like the first wife's death was even important to you when it all seems pretty sneaky. Welcome to the chat, Respect. It just troubles me the way people are trying to reinvent Ivana too. Like, oh, she's this publicist and we should mourn her death. And it's like I don't speak ill of the dead, especially given how close it's hit people I care about, but I legit don't feel anything for her. And it pisses me off that her husband, of all people, is fundraising off of her death. It's just disgusting. But it shouldn't be surprising because, honestly speaking, I said it on Twitter, there's no low with Donald Trump. He legitimately is the low. There is nothing sacred to that man. And now that the feds are on him, now that this January 6th commission is showing that what most of us already knew, but we needed to televise that, yeah, he did incite an insurrection. He was going to try to overturn our democratic process. He is a threat to our country and nation. The fact is, he doesn't have a low. So it doesn't shock me that he took his 73-year-old wife's accidental death and made it a way to crowdfund. But what kills me are the amount of people still backing him. And then between those idiots, which it's bad enough, we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with Trumpers still. You got the other side who want to burn things down. And I'm here to talk about that tonight because it's been overly done with this nonsense. And we can't afford their shit anymore. Their whole idea of burn it down, this nonsense here, and stuff like, well, I didn't vote, and this justifies why I don't vote. I know all of you have been dealing with the Blair stuff. I don't have anything to say to her. I knew her number from the beginning. Anybody who makes their fame being a comedy writer, especially in the day of viral, you always got a side eye. I'm not trying to mess with anybody's bag, but I just don't ascribe to the comedy writers anymore. All of them punch down. All of them think they're the smartest person in the room, and she's a Bernie brat. So I watch people wrestle with her. But what I also seen was chuckleheads like this that jumped into her mentions to depress the vote. And what I keep warning people as they keep highlighting her nonsense instead of paying her the dust she deserves is that all the shit that she spreads is spread through us, our outrage, our retweets. We do not have to give her tweets the pass around our timelines calling her out. You can call her out without amplifying her misinformation. And she only calls to idiots like this and the other guy that was like, yeah, I'm ready to burn it down. I don't even know if I saved that one. I think this one is called Profiles in Clownery. I don't know. Let me see. Now this one is the America's falling apart faster than we can comprehend. You can't keep telling people to vote. And welcome to the chat, Tiffany. What troubles me about their attitude even is the idea that telling them to vote is the problem, not the fact that enough of you haven't voted. And this is why we're still struggling in 2022 against the GOP all hands on deck assault on our democracy. And then you've got the reality of things like the so-called accident of Ivana hitting you along with everything else going on in our lives. And it can be overwhelming, but these freaking people, it's coordinated at this point. You got a media full of trust fund brats who only want to ding this administration. You've got the I don't want to vote. Why should people tell me to vote? Assholes on social media. There is a literal coordinated effort to destroy everything because they have this weird mentality that if we burn it all down, all of a sudden we can rebuild from the ashes. And I asked them in the video, because I told y'all I don't want their revolution. Who's going to be left? Because they'll round up people like me. They don't want people like us in the first place. Women, the ones who don't die in childbirth, oh yeah, we're gone. LGBTQ plus, forget it. Non-straight white Christian males are not going to survive a full-on fascist takeover of the GOP. So their whole idea of, I want to burn this down. Who's going to rebuild? Seriously. They have no insight, but they are very loud. The only thing that we have going for us is that they don't vote. They are very good at trolling. They're very good at being clout goblins. What they're not good at is actually turning that energy that they have to jump in our mentions, that they have to seek us out to argue, to say that K-Hive is attacking me, is to turn that into actual political action because it's too much work. And as long as they continue to be lazy like that, it is both a detriment, but also kind of a blessing for us. Because they don't go for politicians that want to do the work. They want to be ageist against Joe Biden, who's actually head down doing the job of a president of an entitled nation, but don't have the same smoke for Bernie Sanders, who, last I checked, is older than him, who doesn't even have half the administrative or civil work under his belt, whose only claim to fame is taking credit for another man's civil rights photo and naming post offices, getting kicked out of a commune. Yeah, I'm going for blood tonight, y'all, because I am sick and tired of the Rosebros. I have been dealing with the grief of my friend's death. So the You need to debate me, team. On Twitter ain't it. And I laughed at you all week. Not you guys in chat. But these fuckers that kept trying to parachute in our mentions talking about you need to debate. They were in Greg, I'm Jeezy's, and so many other people's mentions. Greg called one of them boiled chicken, and then his social bro, because, we get those Negroes that think I should be on this side because this side's where it's going to burn down, want to be revolutionaries, but don't even leave their mama's couch. He was like, how dare you call my friend boiled chicken? And all he did was make me laugh because his retweet, I wouldn't even notice. I wouldn't even notice if he wasn't so indignant about his friend who did look like boiled chicken being called boiled chicken. But they were all like, you needed it. Your points aren't as solid because you won't argue with us. Man, we ain't got time for that. Why do you want us to waste energy trying to convince you that fascism is bad? If your parents didn't teach you that, ain't no way some stranger on Twitter gonna open your eyes. Y'all keep wasting our time. Y'all don't think you realize a lot of us, and I'm saying us as black people, I can't talk for others, but I'm telling you deep in my heart from everything I've witnessed of black Twitter especially, we're done. We're either gonna fuck you up or we're gonna find you funny, but you don't get any other leeway. We are not gonna waste any more energy on your nonsense because half of you are talking burn it down, the other half of you are talking entitlement. Why should I have to? Oh, they're taking our rights. Oh, they're forcing a 10-year-old to have to cross state lines to get an abortion. They're arguing the semantics on whether a 10-year-old's a rape victim, which FYI, since 10-year-olds cannot consent to sex, no Jim Jordan of Ohio, she cannot consent. Nobody under the age of 18 can legally consent. That is why statutory rape is a term. But anybody 10, that's just a rape victim. I don't need no pretty fucking words. Somebody had sex with an underage child and she was pregnant. And because the Supreme Court, which was appointed by 45, with the handmaiden beer guy, assholes like Alito, Roberts, and Thomas, decided that that baby, who already went through the trauma of being sexually assaulted, then had to deal with the realities of, am I going to have to carry this to term? And if you're a GOPer, you want to force a 10-year-old to give birth to a rapist child. This is why we can't sleep on this. This is why it pisses me off when people retweet these non-voting assholes. Screen cap them if you need, but be wary on what you share on your page. Because we're making fun of them, yes. We might even have some followers that go, yeah, that's awful. We don't feel that way. But then you spread their poison to other apathetic who go, see, there's another person that thinks like me. We have to cut that line. We have to stop being that bridge for their idiocy to pass through. Even showing that asshole's tweet on my Bonnet Chronicles is taking a risk. We have to stop helping spread their poison because it really is effective. Yeah, there were a lot of people who called him out, but there were still people that bothered to hurt that tweet because there are so many white people who act apathetic. 12 years. He hasn't voted in 12 years. That means he is the direct cause of Donald Trump, but he doesn't see it that way. He thinks it's a revolution for him to do nothing. He thinks, oh, we'll burn it down and rebuild from the ashes. There are a lot of silly white men like him. They think, oh, well, I'm not GOP, but, the other side isn't enough for me. It doesn't center me enough. It doesn't talk about giving me free shit, so I'm just going to burn it down. Then with whoever's left, I'll have a socialist paradise in utopia. I won't have to work. I'll get free everything because there'll be free labor. And how will we get that free labor? It won't matter to me. I won't have to think about it. I'm in my white bubble. They're not fooling anybody. But they think they're the smartest people in the room because they read Marx once and they read Nietzsche and they swear to God that they understand that system. They refuse to look at the realities of the Soviet bloc. They refuse to look at the realities of how their people are literally being used as cannon fodder for a fucking war that shouldn't even be happening. How they are literally committing atrocities because their dictator tells them that's you're doing it for your country. They think that's the way to go, and I can't. I refuse. I'm an American, but I'm not one of those good little Americans that's just gonna let people be left behind. I'm not one of those good little Americans that can shit on another citizen just because I don't see eye to eye or always understand them. And what they want is that to be our norm. To be the kind of people that narc on each other because they're different. To be the kind of people that calls on a woman for getting a health procedure. Because need I remind you, having a baby is not easy. I've only done it once because I lost the first one, because that's a reality of the human body. Sometimes your body cannot carry a child to term. But when you do go through that process, it is a scary thing. And there are way too many men who don't even understand basic biological functions, but want to sit up in a congressional seat and get clowned on by women who actually know how the human body works. But these assholes are still allowed to make decisions based on our bodies. And then you want to sit home and not vote instead of electing representatives who understand how the female bodies work. Make that shit make sense. Your revolution is not going to happen. Your revolution is a pipe dream. And as long as I have breath in my body and strength in my bones, I'm going to make sure that it never happens on this soil. You want the socialist utopia? I suggest you start filling out the paperwork to go live overseas. The USSR could use the bodies to replace the idiots that they have losing left and right attacking the Ukraine. You think you're such a tough guy? You think you're gonna burn it down? Burn it down over there. We don't need you here, Chippy. They get on my nerves, and they know they're full of shit. It's always on social media with that whole tough guy routine. It's always on social media with the I'm gonna wield the sword of revolution from my smartphone on my couch while somebody else does all the work. I'll wait to use them marching about another death like Jalen Walker's unfounded legalized lynching, and I'll parachute off of that because I need my student loan debt forgiven. I'll wait to the next black issue to put BLM in my bio so that I can parachute in about needing health care paid off. Y'all are exhausting. And I don't want no parts of your stuff. And I don't want you utilizing our reality for whatever platform you need. Because you're not thinking beyond yourself. You hear Black Lives Matter and you think, oh, black people are only thinking Black Lives Matter only. And we never said that. But we literally have a pressing issue. An issue that takes our elders from us. They were talking about the Tops grocery store opening again. One of my friends put out a tweet saying, be gentle with those who still aren't ready to go into that store. Be gentle with those who are happy because they finally got the only supermarket that food desert area has opening again. Just be gentle. And I felt that to my soul because if you haven't lived in an area where you really have to travel just to get groceries, where you have to make decisions because your family needs to be fed, and to have a racist idiot who barely lived but had nothing but hate in his heart come and rip that from you. If you can't understand the psychological trauma of being black in this country and having somebody just want to destroy you because your life has no value, you don't deserve to put BLM in your bio. Because some of yous are really fucking performative. I seen your stunts this week with going to DC to protest, but if you're not turning that into votes, I don't give a fuck about it. I seen how you were blocking roads for the environment, but if you're not turning those protests from the road to the ballot, it doesn't fucking matter. I know it's hard for some of you to hear because you're in your fields that you gotta do something. And standing around with a sign and shouting makes you feel good. Standing around and protesting outside the White House makes you feel like you're doing something. But then you'll go right fucking home. And when the midterms come, You don't pay them dust. But all that energy you took the time to make a fucking sign. You took the time to print t-shirts, organize these marches, line up buses for the dead victims of Uvalde. But if you're not taking those buses down to your voting center and getting Abbott the fuck out of there, Cruz the fuck out of there, what's the point? All of these protests, I'm telling you, I'm not trying to tell you not to be angry. I seen the video footage. They had to remove the screams of the children. That shit rocks my brain. It has not been okay, y'all, and I get it. But if you're not going to follow up your protest with a ballot, what's the point? We are only in for worse. They have outlined that they're going after Social Security. They have outlined that they are going after everybody's rights that isn't a straight Christian white male. And everything we warned you about the last 10 years, even, because I'm only going to go back 10 years. For me, I'm old, I'm tired. I don't have to go back that far. We told you every midterm we need turnout. And you scoffed at us. We warned you what would happen. And you scoffed at us. Now you are seeing it live. You are seeing the fallout. And everybody wants to just blame Trump, but this is not just a Trump issue. The problem is treating young white males with emotional damage, with probably home neglect, some of them with rural rot, some of them with urban decay, all of them affected by privilege, but nowhere to be truly entitled. Against other white men that have more money, they feel inadequate. Against other white men that have less money, they act like they're better. They feel no connection. They don't have the same tribal ties as the rest of these cultures, and they are all out for themselves a lot. So they develop these weird online personas, writing manifestos, putting out all this angry, racist rhetoric. And the people around them either ignore them or act like it's not a red flag until it's too late. And we've seen this pattern so much. It doesn't make sense that they aren't on watch lists, but be a 79-year-old grandmother who just happens to identify as Muslim, especially during the Trump administration. It's funny who's a drunk in this country. It's funny who could be put on watch lists in this nation. That young man was 18 and nobody signed the flags of the online shit, but nobody said, okay, he is buying 2 AR-15s and a shit ton of ammo. These aren't hunting weapons. Why doesn't it set off national alarms when these fuckers do that? Because everything he's doing is legal. And historically speaking, we have to be the ones to stop the legalities of our own destruction. And it comes with probably the most easiest, simplest, but to some people, boringest route, which is voting the legislators in who will put gun reform. It's not fancy. You might not even get recognition for it unless you're somebody famous and want a pat on the head for bare minimum. But unless you're Deborah Messing and want to take credit for shit you really didn't do, you're going unsung. The whole gift is, hey, we get a better nation. Hey, we save our democracy. But some of you want a pat on the head. You want to feel like you're more important than you are, and you don't care beyond yourself. You talk about a revolution, but do you understand that most revolutions are born of necessity? My people had to revolt against slavery because, FYI, when you take actual human beings from their place of origin, forcefully implant them into a whole native soil, tell them that we are going to rape you, work you to near death or death, and that you can no longer be free. You are no longer human. Yeah, that revolt was coming and it was justified. France went through a revolt. Somebody tried to bring that up at me. And I was like, do you not understand that the monarchy of France were wasteful, awful, and people were living in abject poverty? You're complaining from a fucking iPhone that your parents probably bought you. It's not the same, champ. You scream revolution from the comforts of your home. The people who often had to revolt were in dire straits. And I'm not saying that America is perfect. I watched that TikTok with that young man that talked about getting health care overseas without understanding the complexities of trying to have a better healthcare system in a capitalist society. And it's a pipe dream if you think people are going to all of a sudden stop getting paid to do the things you want so that you can have free shit. That's not how the world works. The moment humanity put a price tag on their time, that was it. And it would take a few generations to get away from the idea that I need money to get by. I woke up the other day after paying bills and being broke like most normal grown-ups after realizing this is a fucking hamster wheel. And even with the projects I'm doing, even with every extra thing I'm trying to do to bring income in, it really feels like you chain yourself to this shit. So yeah, I would love it if a utopia happened where money wasn't a fucking driving force. But we ain't gonna be there in my lifetime. So I'm gonna work within the system I got and respect the fact that I won't be greedy about it, but I'm sure as heck not gonna make it harder for people by not doing the bare minimum thing I can do by electing officials that'll help make things more stable. You want to bitch about the gas prices? The Republicans continuously vote to make things awful for us. Continually vote to be in the pockets of these big oil companies that make billions of dollars whether things are running right or not. But you're not dinging them. You're not dinging the people that vote consistently against us. You constantly got smoke against the people who are working hard. They're not flashy enough. They're too old. They're too this. They're too that. They're doing their job. I heard some of the grumblings about Biden going overseas to meet with the Saudi prince. And like Joe did, he met with him. He said, I don't appreciate you murdering one of our citizens and Jamal Khashoggi. President Biden is a lot of things, but he's not a pushover. You're not going to see him doing a happy dance like 45 did with those murderers. He understands, though, that as a president of the United States, he has to deal with both domestic stuff and global stuff. And the world globally isn't doing okay. We have a political prisoner in Britney Grimer. Don't think the hoteps haven't been jumping in, crawling into our mentions, trying to bring her up like they give a fuck about black women all of a sudden. Y'all disrespect us worse than anybody. And some people are going to try to seep into black Twitter because they see the most solid and reliable voting block as black women. And I've had them try me with Britney. And yes, I want Britney home. I read the news all the time. I read the newest thing where her lawyers are trying to prove to the Kremlin that she had legal reason to have her cannabis. She had medical reason and she did all the proper paperwork. But what I need them to understand is that doesn't matter anymore. They want her as a bargaining chip. Putin is a dirty player. He used to be KGB. Britney's whole incarceration was a setup from the fucking get-go. And we have to be careful with negotiations, because if you don't think they won't make her accidentally disappear or worse, we can't play around with this. Right now, having her there and having her be alive is key. And negotiations have to be done right. We cannot afford a 1970s incident. This is one of my earliest news memories, was when they replayed, because I think it was after I was born, but I remember my grandmother constantly watching things because she loved the news. But the replay of that Olympics where all of those athletes were murdered, her death would cause such a fallout. We can't afford to fuck around with this. All of you that have mouth that never had to deal with diplomatic stuff during war times, because even though we're not directly in war, it is war times. You have no idea how tense this is. You have no idea what this feels like. Her family is living a fucking nightmare. And this administration, I believe, is smart enough and capable enough to get her home, but they have to do it the right way. because we are not dealing with a mentally stable person. Putin is not a stable guy. You don't call a whole ass nation part of your country just because you want it. He is full on between Hitler and Napoleon to me right now. And all these pictures of mothers and children being bombed up and killed. If they don't try him for war crimes, I would be shocked. Because he is committing atrocities left and right. So no, I don't want your revolutions, because that's what happens when you allow the so-called socialist revolution. It's just exhausting that people won't even look at current history. You don't even have to go to the past, but current events, and seeing that this shit it's not working. We shouldn't be striving for more lives to end. We shouldn't be striving to make anybody feel less than. We shouldn't be striving to make laws to make somebody feel obligated towards things. That Ohio thing messed with me so bad. It was such a trigger, because I couldn't believe people arguing whether or not a 10-year-old should be allowed to get an abortion. And my brain is like, I really want a world where a 10-year-old girl doesn't know what it feels like to be pregnant in the first fucking place. I want a world where that deviance is few and far between, if at all. I want a world where a woman's body isn't just viewed as a sexual object, because it is exhausting. As somebody who has survived sexual assault, to deal with the realities that 10-year-old girl dealt with, it is just, she's forever scarred. You live with it. It's a life sentence. And the fact that people want to argue back and forth, there's no right to this. Nobody's on the right side of this, because where were the people that were supposed to protect this child? Where were her family? I know it's not easy. When what happened to me happened, I was hanging out with so-called friends. I thought I was grown. 14-year-old 10, just hanging out with her friends, going to this abandoned house to hang out. But that was a teenage me. I made the conscious decision to go hanging out, trying to be grown, and I paid a very bad price for it. And I don't blame myself much anymore, but at least I was a little older and I made the decision. More than likely, that 10-year-old child didn't even understand what was happening to her. And then having people from Fox News and all over the place arguing over what should be done. And you're not going to force a 10-year-old to have a baby. Having a baby is a very strenuous thing. Not only the art of carrying life within you, because you add extra pounds, you actually have to watch how you sleep. There is a lot that goes into childbirth. And then the act itself is painful. And to have some 70-year-old GOP lawyer talking about, well, in time she would learn the reason behind it. Yeah, the reason behind it is because you're sickos who only see us as meat bags and baby incubators. And no, sir, not on my watch. We really need like a moratorium at this point on the fact that America's not okay. This goes beyond just mental health. There has just been a sickness we have ignored in our country far too long. You know, women who are indoctrinated by this, that think it's their Christian right to just breed and breed heavily. It doesn't matter if they have the means. Living in poverty brings you closer to God too, I suppose. It's a fucking mess. And then your angry, struggling child who is raised in a house that you got to spare water. You can't use electricity. We got to keep the bills low because the government fosters that hate for the government. You find money to buy them guns. You sign off even though they're mean and threatening. And then they go out and they take lives. It's exhausting. Your way is not working. It's not stable. And what's worse is that it affects our neighborhoods. Our elders are dying. Our children are dying because of your white rage. It's got to stop. What troubles me, as we who are still here who have to go on, who lose people, who bury good people, have to go on. We watch how harder you make it for us when you put the entitlement on it. You don't have to be a clan or sheep wearing member of the racist bunch to help their side. When you stay home, you help their side. When you don't turn out for the person with the D by their name, thus allowing somebody to swoop in with an R. When they attack things like books and book banning, when they get libraries closed down because of their ignorance, you help their side. And whether you think your revolution will save you from them or not, there won't be enough of you left to have anything rebuilt. You got to have some insight. Is this system perfect? No. Do I want to break myself every month paying the utility companies out the wazoo, worrying about putting my kid through school? No. But I don't have the kind of society that wants to work together and have that kind of tribal system that looks after each other. No, I have the kind of people that want to get TikTok famous and YouTube monies and everything else. And some of you think you walk a fine line and fake that funk because you have a cushion of privilege, and you see the rest of us struggling just to try to get ours, and you think, well, in my ideal paradise, you wouldn't really have to struggle, or I really wouldn't see you anyway because I would have. You already have, you just don't appreciate what you got. And the rest of us who are just trying to live, trying not to be the next memorialized hashtag, are sick and tired of you bitching about everything. You are literally on the easy button mode of life. Like, I don't understand what white people do to deserve this at this point. You want to call black people lazy? No. We have to navigate so much. Education, where people act like we're affirmative action. Jobs, where we are constantly devalued, but it relied upon. You disrespect us, even though we have to be 10 times as good sometimes to get not even twice as far. And then the constant macro and microaggressions that you put upon us, and then try to act like, well, not all. I don't think that way aloud, so you should pat me on the head. I don't hate your kind, but when you talk openly about racism, it gets me in my feels, and I'd rather you not talk about it and just handle it silently, because your silent strength is what I love about you people. I've literally had people say this to me, and the amount of rage and anger I feel at their ignorance is a gamma bomb would turn me into She-Hulk at this point, because it's infuriating. My silence should scare you, because I'm probably plotting your demise at this point. It isn't a sign of my strength. It is a sign of my patience, and that patience is worn thin. The privilege has to stop. The acting like bare minimum is enough. The protesting but not following it up with a ballot, it has to stop. The acting like politics is too hard. I don't want to think about it. Let me get onto this fan stuff. Let me bitch about this latest movie. Let me pour all of my energy into shit that doesn't matter as my country burns. Your entitlement is a destructive force. And the only way it's going to get better is if you invest yourself. And realize that sometimes investing yourself comes with the caveat that you're not going to win. I'm not trying to stop you from voting for your green fave or your independent or your weird fringe party fave. But some of yous are really out here talking about you haven't voted in 12 years and you're bitching about everything. You don't get the right. If you don't politically invest, you put no investment in. That's like going into a bank that you put no money into an account and bitching about the way they treat their customers. They'll ask you, hey, do you have an account here? No, get the fuck out. Yeah, you can. That's your opinion about us. You don't have any money here. So I don't care what you say about us. I've seen that happen in Wells Fargo. It was funny. In North Carolina, Wells Fargo, some young chippy thought she could come in there and protest them for our behalf, I guess she thought she was. The performative stunt just cracked me up. Showed her whole ass, and Southern women don't care. I love Southern people. They have the best sass and shade. And when that old black teller looked at her and was like, ma'am, do you have an account here? And she was like, no, I'm just, then leave. Point blank, don't waste my time, leave. That's fine and dandy. You can think what you want about this company, but if you don't have an account here, you're trespassing. And that heifer, she left. What's she gonna do? Get arrested? I think if she had others to back her up, she might have. But she looked like a fool. And these fools do this shit all the time. They're really loud. They're really wrong. They're really barking up the wrong tree. And it is the same with voting. You can bitch all you want, but if you're not going to the ballot, nobody's listening to you. You're at the kiddie table of this section. And the elders are going to keep talking amongst ourselves because we want solutions. We want to keep moving towards stability. And we can't afford the tantrumer who doesn't really do anything anyway. We'll give you a coloring book and some crayons. Bye. I think people need to understand that I get frustration. I never tell people that they're not allowed to be upset about things. Losing Roe was a blow we warned you about, but it still sucks. It still sucks trying to navigate this new system, figuring out what's allowed and what's not. Some of us have actual health problems that rely on things like IUDs, that rely on things like certain medicines that could cause miscarriages. This is fucked with disability people left and right because a lot of our medications have to be regulated now. So yeah, people are allowed to feel angry. But those people aren't talking about not voting because we know what happens when fascism is in play. And anybody who's disabled, we are the hardest voting bloc because we know every historical fascist rise has thrown our people under the bus, whether it's mental disability or physical disability. We are often the first to go. So we can't afford to have a fascist state. We're not trying to die. Our LGBT brethren are the same boat. They know laws being written against them. That's why Def Santis did the Don't Say Gay bill. The playbook is out there for everybody to see. The anti-Semitism, which they try to act like, no, we're all for Israel. Ignore the fact that these hateful assholes will go to parades where Jewish people are congregated and pull the trigger on them. We'll say we're pro-Israel because we're pro-rapture, but ignore all the awful things we say about Jewish people. We can't afford this. We can't sleep on this. We cannot turn a blind eye to their open hate. And the fact that even though this January 6th committee has proven he was complicit, Trump is still acting like he's done nothing wrong. He's still acting like he can literally run in 2024. And the scary part is, I really think these motherfuckers think they're going to back him again. So what we have to do in these midterms is show people that we are not playing with y'all. I want the defeats to be so definite that McConnell can't even show his face for a while. And when he does, he just has that faraway look of, I fucked up. He pulled the trigger with his Supreme Court. He pulled the trigger with 45. He laid out everything they want to do to turn us into this weird Christian, obey us nation, and we have to be the ones to say no. And the best way to do that is to be politically informed and cast the ballot. Like I said, the world is going to keep turning. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be things that we have to worry about. But some of this shit that's currently going on was completely self-inflicted. And the only way we're going to get better is for us to do our political investment. And there is no such thing as a safe state because we have watched them weed their way into our school boards. We have watched them weed their way into our House and Senate. We have watched them flee their way from their responsibilities. Assholes like Marco Rubio, who doesn't show up when it's time to take a vote, but can spout Bible passages on Twitter. Dump that idiot and elect Val Demings. You got Cheryl Beasley looking to replace the tax fraud in North Carolina. You've got several key governor races. Stacey Abrams running for Georgia. Beto running for Texas. We've got Pennsylvania, which my friend Lynn was going hard for before she gave her last ounce of energy. And while she wasn't a big Fetterman fan, she was going hard for Fetterman because she wants us to have that majority. It's not easy to keep going on when somebody so close to your age is gone, but I got it. And in honor of her, we need to make sure that Melmet Oz, Mr. I'll push whatever crap pseudoscience, even though I'm a licensed fucking physician, Oz gets that. If he gets that, Pennsylvania's screwed. And Pennsylvania doesn't always make the best decisions. They had some of the most worst abysmal primary turnout. And then on top of that, they went pretty hard for Trump as white voters. We can't afford this. So it's all hands on deck for PA as well. And I don't even pretend like Michigan's safe. Because while I'm going for Gretch, Miss Whitmer has done well for our state. I feel like she will continue to be a good governor. She still has a ton of Republicans, including freaking, I swear, it's like the cast of Get Out, the black GOP here. It's just gross the way they behave. We can't afford that. Georgia has Herschel Walker running against Reverend Warnock, which is a fucking joke. That video, I didn't even play the sound on that video. It looked like they took somebody from outpatient of dementia home and put a mic in his hand. The GOP has no shame or scruples, and Herschel Walker shouldn't be running for anything. He should be retired and sipping sweet tea. Don't put that man in no freaking congressional seat. Why are you wasting our time with this? Seriously, y'all. The GOP is not taking this seriously, but we have to. Because they would put a clown like that easily in Reverend Warnock's place, and no. And if you don't think it can happen, need I remind you that Doug Jones, who, civil rights lawyer, who got a fucking KKK member put in jail years after he bombed and took 4 little black girls' lives, lost his seat to Tommy fucking Tuberville. A man who can barely spell, doesn't even know basic civics. Hey, King Black Fang, welcome to the chat. It just enrages me. The people who sleep and stay home and think, what's the worst that can happen? Tommy fucking Tuberville can happen. Even saying his name. His name sounds like an old-timey Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes cartoon. When I heard he won, I was like, wait, did everybody just stay home? And no, black voters turned out for Doug. Black voters still have his back. It was the people who were outraged about Roe. The people talking about burning it down. The people who thought, I need to be motivated off my couch. The people who are never gerrymandered or voter suppressed, but are always the loudest about what you want. Always loudest about who should be left behind because what's winning. Y'all did this. You've lost Doug Jones, a civil rights defense attorney, to Tommy Tuberville. So if you don't think I'm keeping my eye on the prize to GA, you don't think that I'm worried that Herschel, I can barely speak, Walker might sneak past Reverend Warnock? No. I can't trust a certain demographic to put themselves ahead of us. I can't trust you to not cult of personality and act like it's fame. Exactly, respect. He lied so much about his background, about his education, about so much lies. Talking about morality, talking about men need to be in their home and take care of their kids. And oops, now you find out he has a whole bunch of illegitimate children. His son, who, you're not fooling anybody, Christian. You're not fooling anybody with your sexuality. And we're not here to shame your sexuality. But the fact that you're loud and very screaming with your stuff in one breath, but want to push these weird right-wing values. Get help. Because you really do remind me of that Get Out movie. Like, ew. Ugh. You were the loudest in that TikTok about take care of your kids. Your dad needs to take care of his because they're coming out the woodwork now. And DNA don't lie. You've got a couple brothers and sisters now. It's always the loudest about morality that have the dirtiest closets, too. It's about control. And we have seen the kind of place this would be under their control. The kind of place where a 10-year-old child would be forced to bear her rapist baby. The kind of place where little girls would have to fight for their education, fight for their voice, fight for their place in their own country. A place where Black elders can't even go into their grocery stores without worrying about being gunned down. A place where an 8-year-old can kill their 5-year-old sibling because they have an ease of access to guns. And that gun is more protected than my ass and the child that I may or may not have in the future. This country isn't right, and we have to be the ones to get it on the right path. And we have to work within the structures that we have, because that whole burn it down mentality is ignorant. We already have something that, structurally speaking, if we work within it and make it recognized and work for all of us, can work. And then we can use it to build towards things like universal health care and a better system of schooling and everything else. But working within a system that's already built up is way better than burning it down and hoping that people are left to rebuild from the ashes. Sometimes you really have to get to a certain age to have insight, because I think 20, 30 years ago, I might have been like one of these chuckleheads that want revolution. When you grow up, Gen X, you teeter between nihilistic, fatalistic, and sometimes idiotic mentalities, but you start to get to an age where you realize that A, life is too short, B, the system can work when people want to do the work. And I'm old enough to see that now. I'm old enough to sit at the adult table now. And some of you haven't earned that, but you want to yap from the sidelines. We don't got to listen to you. Until you're ready to come up with workable solutions and get your hands dirty, we're not gonna listen to you. And I think that upsets some, and oh well, get over it. I didn't get to see that yet, Respect. I'm kind of afraid to. The more I get from that story, the more heartbreaking it is. So many kids are going through it in our country between the years of COVID and being locked down and then being forced back to school and then finding out a classmate has died or a teacher has died or a family member has died. The isolation of having to lock down, and then the fear of being out. There is a lot of anxiety. And then you've got these predators openly targeting our kids and doing stuff like what happened to that 10-year-old. And our nation would rather fight over whether or not she deserves to get an abortion or not, and attack the doctors who have to make these healthcare decisions. And it's like, what kind of hellscape is this? I write fiction, and I can't come up with anything half as twisted as our current reality, where people violently rip the lives away of people as martyrs for white supremacy. I don't need to come up with any more twisted villain than these 18-year-olds like that Gershon or that Homeo, or however you say that parade shooter's name, Cremio. They're the real villains, forged by white supremacy. It's a specter that looms over our nation. It's a specter that makes some white people feel comforted. But it's a false illusion that only destroys you. It's a slow acting poison that ages you. It's why somebody who is my age and a white supremacist looks at least 20, 30 years older. Because that hate seeps into your pores and it wrecks you. It's just the angry bitterness of the world not being the way you want it. People not letting you disrespect them. Not letting you dehumanize them. because you still think it makes you feel good to dehumanize others, and you've got to let that go. The only way we are going to have a better human society is for us to all be humans. But it's going to take a lot of work, and I can't rely on the far left, and I definitely would never rely on anybody still openly right. So it takes those of us who are in the middle, surrounded by this sea of dumbass fuckery, to hold it together and do what we got to do. Casting your ballot all the time. No excuses. Some people act like it's hard, and I'm not going to act like it's not hard. But it's like I said in my message of hope. And let me see if I got that here. Because it drives me up a wall. Let me get these elders' photos here. I vote to protect my rights and yours. I don't need any other message than this. I grew up in a world that lets me know my rights are never guaranteed. Many of us have that, whether we're an American woman whose right to vote was had to be codified in an amendment, whether we're African American, Native American, whether we're Asian Americans who literally had to, they were our first internment camp victims. Anybody who isn't a straight Christian white person asking why your right to vote matters in this day and age, you need to understand that there's never going to be a message deeper than they will take your humanity away. Nothing is guaranteed. That's why we vote, to make sure it stays safe. The things that you grew up with, because some of you are grown up now. You're in your 20s, so you didn't live the life of the AIDS era. You didn't live the life where being openly LGBT was a death sentence. You take for granted everything the rest of us had to navigate and survive. So you think it doesn't matter until we all are dragged backwards by people who are so steeped in the tradition that only elevates them at everybody else's expense. And you help them with your apathy. And you hurt us that you claim to care about. And you scream BLM to a black person talking about racism. But you ignore the openly craven GOP who wants to take everything from us. Stop enabling the fascists. Do your part. It's not going to get you instant results. It's not meant to. Real progress comes in incremental steps, and it's solid when we work within the system. It helps us when we work together. You claim to want socialism, but the one thing you could do to get stuff that would give us more social programs, you refuse. How do you think that's going to work? You don't vote. You don't elect people that actually want to put these programs in place. You think it's magically supposed to happen. I don't understand your mindset. And I don't want to debate you, bro. I'm tired of arguing with people online because I see that tactic. You want to exhaust people. You want to say the K-Hive's after you, and we don't even know you. You might get a tweet here and there, but we move on. You're just like the Twitter main villain of the day sometimes. But don't flatter yourself. We got bigger fish to fry and ballots to pass. Some of yous really boost that ego, talk about the K-Hive swarmed me. It's like, I don't even know you. Most of us don't. But you sure like to wear that badge of being attacked by us. Get out of here. And I'm saying this to all of yous who either call yourself K-Hive or K-Hive adjacent because you don't want to step on toes or whatever. I've seen so many white excuses with that lately, and it's like, look, I get you think you don't want to co-op our thing, but Kamala Harris was all about all hands on deck. So if you're a white woman and want to call yourself K-Hive, as long as you don't do anything embarrassing towards her trajectory, call yourself that. I don't think there's a black woman alive that's be like, you're culturally appropriate. It's not like you're being Kim Kardashian. As long as you're not being outright disrespectful, because if you are, you know we're gonna come for you too. But some of you are playing these weird games where you just want to be adjacent and then you don't want to get called out for being adjacent, and it's annoying. I honestly need a whole ass squad to really roll up, not some half ass squad that's like, yeah, I'm here on the side to key with you, but I'm not really involved. I'm adjacent. That's how y'all sound. And I can't with this right now. You're either all in or you're all out. Don't do that half-ass shit no more, because it's getting on our nerves. And even those of us who consider ourselves K-Hive, we play around with yous now. Because you're like, oh, the K-Hive attacks me. And I love when Tiffy does this. She's like, who's the K-Hive? You see him in the room with you? You might need to see a doctor for that. If you're seeing K-Hive everywhere, you might need a prescription for that, buddy. Because the K-Hive is just a group of people looking to protect the misogynistic attacks on our VP. We are protecting not only her record, we are protecting her trajectory towards the presidency. That is all we're doing. We are completely grassroots. We are the kind of people that come out of pockets and raise money for our friends' funeral expenses, raise money when people are in need. You are the people who helped get my book from just the ebook to soon to be print reality. We are a family. And I know they can't stand that because they could never. They talk a good talk with their or bust bullshit, and it's always a bust for them. They spew a good game about, oh, we get message, we got people shook, and nobody knows their names. We do the work, and it scares the shit out of them. That's why they're always talking about chaos. That's why they're little fucking trust fund journalists write hit pieces about us. But just like RVP, we keep going on because we understand the assignment. So if you're not black and you consider yourself K-Hive, don't think you don't have the right to do that, because it is all hands on deck. You see how we're getting hit from all sides, and we need all of you. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because I am really tired of the I'm not, but. There's no but. We all need to be all in. The next 2 years even is going to be a challenge. And we need you. If you can phone bank, phone bank. If you can text bank, text bank. If you got a canvas, please wear your mask. Be safe and get to the polls. If you have early voting, get to the polls. If you have absentee ballots, get those filled out. We need those votes. We need the D's in our Congress, because the R's don't give a fuck about anything but radicalized Christianity. That's anything but Christian. We can't afford to play around with this, y'all. And I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody who has stayed in. And I'm telling you, Hollywood has really gotten on my nerves. So many celebrities on Twitter with their ridiculous political takes. I'm not saying you can't like some of the things your fave does, but don't get your political advice from Deborah Messing or Susan Sarandon. Research. We've got devices that allow us to find out about the people running for us. Do your homework. It really is that important. And thank you so much, Raven Divine. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, go make some dinner for Axiom and I, go over some more of the contract stuff. I am so excited. They're sending me the physical proof for the book Axiom. Pretty soon, y'all, you are going to see my physical work on bookshelves. I didn't think this was going to happen. I took a chance last month on my birthday. I wanted to be a published author on my 45th birthday. I took a chance, and things are just going even better than I thought it was going to. And it's because of all the downloads that you guys did. Don't think I don't know how you have my back, and I so appreciate it. I honestly thought nobody was going to care or like my work. I am getting 5-star reviews left and right. People are leaving actual feedback in my DMs, which I promise you I will get to soon. It has just been really hard this week. With Lynn's death and everything going on, my DMs stay busy. So even though there are people I really do want to reach back, there are so many idiotic things too. And I want you to know that if you wasted time DMing me and you're a new follow and it's something stupid, I'm not even gonna respond, and you're gonna get blocked. So I really hope you didn't waste my time, because there are a lot of new messages and a lot of new people that followed me. So I'm just putting that up front. I have a very zero tolerance policy to wasting time in my tweets and DMs. Hate to be mean about it, but there are some people that keep doing that crap, and they always learn the hard way. Don't slide in my DMs sending me any creepy pictures too, weirdos. Ugh. But on a high note, I really do want to thank you. I will be announcing, hopefully, once the proof gets here, how long it'll be before the physical copies are on the shelf. And I am working on part two, because there's another part of these character stories that I just want to touch upon to finish it up. And I really think of this as a human evolution project. So I'm looking forward to just getting the second book finished and written out. And then I've got a web comic I'm also working on with Curie Bell. So there is just so much creative work coming down the pike. And I appreciate all of you who have been constant support for me while I do these creative things. And I will be back on Sunday with some D&D, and then back again on Tuesday for election focused Bonnet Chronicles. Thank you all so much for sitting in with me tonight, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you.